On the 20th of March 2020, just before we all got hidden away for a while, there was an article on the BBC website. Christmas arrives early to lighten the mood. It told the story of how people, as they sought to deal with the pandemic, wanted to bring some much needed joy to the neighbourhood. A little bit of light, like these ones. In mid-November, The Guardian had an article about how people were putting their Christmas lights up early. An entire cul-de-sac in Shropshire was adorned with lights. The question of whether it was acceptable to put up lights in November was thrown out the window. People were craving light, like these ones. After hearing that Christmas lights might not happen in New Addington, a local resident decided to get people to sponsor a lamppost to make it happen. And the money poured in. And if you walk or drive along the parade in the dark, the lights twinkle. It's Christmas. It's not going away. There is something about Christmas lights, isn't there? Fairy lights, we might call them. They add something beautiful. Well, that's the hope. They're called out to be stared at. They're reminders of hope. In the gloom of 2020, a twinkly light speaks of something beyond the gloom. The whole Christmas light thing goes back to when people used to light candles and put them on the tree, on their Christmas trees. Fire risk if everyone ever have seen one. But they symbolise Jesus as light of the world. In their origins, the light of Christ was celebrated and lives on, even where those who are decorating the outside of their house don't understand the hope that it brings. Light says hope. Light says more. Light says the future is going to be better. One of the things that is interesting about the Christmas story is that most of it takes place in the dark. The baby is pictured as being born at night, light to the world. The shepherds are watching their flocks by night, and a bright light appears in the heavens as the host of heavenly angels sing good news. The wise men follow a star that appears at night. The story of the Nativity, it screams out, you won't stay in darkness forever. It's like this moment switches on the big light, turns on the light that illuminates all and signifies a new beginning. It's like the illuminations in a seaside town where we just want to go and see them because they are so beautiful, but it's far more beautiful than that, and it happens in a quiet room where animals are kept. That's light. Maybe we put up our lights early in 2020, not just because they're pretty, like these ones, but because they speak of the hope that we have that things will get better. And at Christmas, that light, it stays on forever. Long after the twinkly lights have been taken down, long after I take these off my shoulders. Perhaps this whole concept of light in darkness is much more real for us this year. Today we come to a passage that is spoken again and again at carol services across the world, full of mystery and of hope. It's a prophecy that inspires our light, that speaks light in darkness, that looks to the past, looks to the now, and looks ahead. In this passage, through Isaiah, God promises that there will be no more gloom. Isn't that a phrase we'd love to hear in 2020? No more gloom. Isn't that a phrase we'd love to become a reality in 2021? No more gloom. No more feelings of great unhappiness or distress, because hope is here. The light is switched on. Hope is realised. In verse 1 of Isaiah chapter 9, the people of Judah are reminded of the past where Zebulun and Naphtali in the north of Israel were left wanting, invaded and occupied by their neighbours. But then goes on to say that the future is better. These lands, the first to experience foreign occupation, will be the first to see the new and great light God would shine. The future will all be restored. Galilee once again will be honoured. There are better things to come. We can look back and see things fail and expect them to fail again. But what this prophecy tells us is that in looking back, we should not be pessimistic about the future, because the future holds great things. Where there has been despair, there is hope. Where there has been brokenness, there will be restoration. Where there has been darkness, there will be light. Just like those Christmas lights put up early, but far more than that, the prophet Isaiah promises us that this isn't it. There is more. The people walking in darkness have seen a great light. The light has been switched on, and it will never be put out. The people will be under oppression no more, but will have freedom to live and be all they are made to be. The yoke that burdens them will be taken away, all heaviness taken off their shoulders. 2020 has been an impossibly heavy year, hasn't it? But Christmas reminds us that there is so much more, and the much more is light in more ways than one. The struggles will be gone. For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the greatness of his government and peace there will be no end. He will reign on David's throne and over his kingdom, establishing and upholding it with justice and righteousness from that time on and forever. The zeal of the Lord Almighty will accomplish it. Hallelujah. The people of Judah, where they've experienced darkness, defeat and oppression, the birth of a new son in the royal household is a sign of hope. These words would have probably made them think about their own king, King Ahaz, and the birth of his heir Hezekiah, and what a great day that was. Where all around is dark, the sound of a newborn, the arrival of new life, however difficult the circumstances in which they arrive, it brings hope. This is the great switching on of the light moment, the big button that lights up not just the whole of the city centre, but the whole world. And no bulbs are broken, everything works. The newborn that Isaiah talks about is not just a royal baby. He is so much more. The description is of one who deserves more than just his name attached to the gates of Buckingham Palace to announce his arrival. But his name needs to be put up in the lights of the angels in the sky. The gaze of the people of Judah is shifted from the present to the future, to something that has already been done and promised, but is yet to be revealed. Isaiah has already hinted at the birth of a child in chapter 7 verse 14. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son and will call him Emmanuel, which means God with us. And here he gives more of an idea of what kind of child this is and why he's good news, light in the darkness, what we have all been waiting for. He is our wonderful counselor. The Hebrew word for wonderful counselor is Pele Yohas. Pele means a miracle, a marvel, or a wonder, something extraordinary, incomprehensible, or inexplicable. Yoaz means to advise, counsel, devise, or purpose. You put those two words together, and you have an amazing advisor who puts things together to work for God's purpose. If the purpose is to bring the most fantastic light display that will take away all the gloom, this child is the one who does something that makes us go, wow, when it is turned on. But wow, not only because of how it looks, but because it has only been possible because of the precise planning that has gone into it. Everything works in him. Everything is perfect in him. When the word became flesh and moved into the neighbourhood, it wasn't last minute. It wasn't a last minute, okay, let's do it. But it is the best and perfect way to begin the process of the restoration of the whole of humanity, the whole of creation. We can have hope for our future because we know that what is planned ahead is better than what has been before. We know that he will guide us in the right and the wise way. In the midst of gloomy 2020, this is our sure and certain hope. It's not only going to get worse. Instead, it will only become better. Whatever we face ahead, betterness is in our path. He is mighty God, divinely strong and powerful. He's fighting COVID with us. He's given the doctors and the scientists and everyone else the ability to do what they need to do at breakneck speeds. Perhaps we need to stop thinking of the vaccine as rushed and fear it, but think of it as something God has done and embrace it. He is giving us a way ahead. He's not just fighting COVID, he's fighting everything. He fights and highlights injustice, inequality, pushing people who are pushed to the margins. He fights for them. He fights for those who are treated differently because of who they are. This child is mighty God who embraces and shows us a new victory that doesn't push people down. His light display is a massive sign that says everything is going to come together and be made right again. He is our everlasting Father. The light display isn't only for a season, because the season of Jesus will last forever. He will care for his people forever, as a father cares for his children. He won't retire one day, but will be there throughout. The lights aren't just put up to give a little bit of hope. They give us every hope we need. He is Prince of Peace. We talked about peace the other week. He brings well-being. He restores. He brings shalom. Relationships are made right. All shall be well because of this child. The light display doesn't irritate anyone because it is right and it is good for all. As all of these things, Jesus reshapes our daily fears and turns them into hope. For the people of Judah, their fear seems to be that the same thing will happen to them as happened to Zebulun and Naphtali, the rest of Israel where the light was turned out and darkness dwelled. As we seek hope in the darkness, we lay our fears of the now and the future before God. Word became flesh and moved into the neighbourhood. God moved in amongst the fear and the anxiety and the unknowing and brought hope from the centre of the community. He didn't watch the light show from afar and fix it with some kind of blast of lightning. But he is there. He is here, stringing the lights up, putting up with the signs of the lamppost sponsors and making sure that every bulb is in place and works. As a human, he struggled with the same things that we struggle with. Fear of illness and death and poverty and not knowing. But as God made human, he made it possible for that fear to be turned into hope. That feeling of dread that we might lose someone or something that matters to us, that our light display will blow all the fuses, he takes that and he embraces it with compassion and with a servant heart. As he does that, he reshapes our fears into hopes for a future envisioned and planned by God. Why do you think we are inspired so much by the stories of those who have been restored or been the restorers despite? Why is it that Mother Teresa or Nelson Mandela or the stories from World War II inspire us so much? Why do you think that our friend Angela's story, where she encountered Jesus' love and despite the troubles she faced, died in a place of healing and restoration better than the road in which she had travelled, inspires us to keep on keeping on? It's because these are stories of restoration. These are all people who contended with fear and with hope and allowed hope and compassion and service to help them decide what to do next. The future got better. We know that Angela's future got better, and we know that our future will get better. What future do our fears promise? Not a great one, a gloomy one, if even that good. What future does Jesus promise? Well, he promises a future of hope. Whatever that looks like, I like that one better. Jesus' future doesn't depend on our current problems being resolved before hope can be realised. As we recognise that this has already been done, we embrace his compassion and his love, and he redeems our fears right now. Lay them before him now. Choose a future with Jesus because it's better. It's the best. That light display is going to work, and it's going to be the best one you've ever seen. Have a great Christmas. Amen.